In 1939, the German Health Ministry introduced a one-page questionnaire completed by doctors and nurses. Instead of triggering care, the form, with its official stamps, initiated a state-sponsored evaluation. A single checkmark in the wrong box became a death sentence. To understand how a medical form became a weapon, we have to look back to 1933. The newly elected Nazi government officially adopted the pseudoscience of racial hygiene. Human worth was measured entirely by genetic purity and economic output. This diagram illustrates how the state divided its citizens. Individuals were sorted based on their perceived value. The productive were protected, while those with physical or psychiatric disabilities were labeled useless eaters, a financial drain on national resources. This system relied on the active participation of the medical community. Doctors abandoned their traditional role as individual caretakers to become biological soldiers. Their priority shifted from healing the sick to defending the genetic integrity of the state. This shift in medical ethics created a vacuum of accountability. It raises a critical question. What happens when the tools of a physician are turned toward the logistical needs of an extremist regime? The answer began at a Berlin villa located at Tiergartenstrasse 4. This was the headquarters for Aktion T4, a highly secretive, centralized euthanasia program authorized by a note from Adolf Hitler. Medical panels rapidly processed the patient questionnaires collected from across the country. 3 doctors would review a file and place a red plus sign at the bottom to authorize a mercy death. They never physically examined the patients. Once selected, a new logistical network took over. Government operatives removed patients from their local care facilities and loaded them onto buses, transporting them away from their families to 6 designated killing centers, including Bernburg and Hadamar. At these centers, doctors perfected a specific method of extermination. Upon arrival, victims were ushered into rooms disguised as shower facilities. Instead of water, the staff pumped in pure, bottled carbon monoxide gas. The killing was followed by an administrative cover-up. T4 staff disposed of the bodies in attached mass crematoria and mailed urns to the victims' families, along with death certificates listing fabricated causes, like pneumonia or heart failure. The T4 program successfully industrialized murder by completely sanitizing it. What started as localized killings in clinics had become a highly efficient, high-volume administrative workflow. While T4 relied on bureaucratic distance, a different kind of horror was unfolding within the concentration camp system. At Dachau, established in 1933, the state was developing the personnel needed to enforce this ideology. Dachau served as the foundational model for the entire camp system. It functioned as a central training ground where SS guards were methodically taught the mechanics of systematic dehumanization. These camps also housed camp laboratories. Here, physicians from prestigious institutions operated entirely outside the bounds of law or ethics. They categorized living inmates as disposable scientific specimens. In Experimental Station Block 46 at the Buchenwald camp, Dr. Erwin Ding Schuler infected over 1,000 inmates with lethal pathogens like typhus and cholera to test vaccines. He also tested execution methods by lacing prisoners' food with poison or shooting them with toxic bullets. This sequence documents an experiment by the German Air Force. To simulate bailing out of an aircraft, doctors locked prisoners in low-pressure chambers, depriving them of oxygen until they suffered severe convulsions. Others were submerged in ice water to test hypothermia treatments. The absolute physical agony of these tests is captured by Dachau survivor Iwan Agayev, who endured a freezing experiment. He recalled, "I was injected with some red stuff and put into a bathtub. The last thing I remember before I lost consciousness was that a slight ice covering began to appear on the surface of the water." While T4 built the administrative workflow of death, the concentration camps provided the lawless testing ground. In these blocks, the medical oath was inverted into an instrument of torture. In August 1941, following public condemnation by religious leaders, Adolf Hitler officially ordered a halt to the T4 program. However, the killings quietly persisted in secret. The official halt triggered a dark transfer of technology. The doctors, administrators, and staff of T4 had become experts in deception, gassing, and mass cremation. the state uprooted this experienced workforce and relocated them to the occupied territories in the east. They became the architects of Operation Reinhard. These medical bureaucrats were tasked with designing and operating the first facilities built exclusively for the extermination of the Jewish and Roma populations. The administrative efficiency perfected during T4 merged with the trained brutality developed at Dachau. The result of this synthesis was the creation of vast killing centers like Treblinka and Auschwitz-Birkenau. The industrialized scale of the final solution was achievable because the operational blueprints had already been drafted, tested, and optimized by medical professionals. The Holocaust took its first steps in clinics, asylums, and university laboratories. It stands as a permanent warning that when state ideology dictates medical authority and paperwork replaces human empathy, the descent into industrialized atrocity is total.